How we doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and folks, we have some really important breaking Mets news to get into that has initially dropped over the past hour or so at the time of this video first coming out, which, yes, is the following. The Mets are officially sending down Francisco Alvarez after a very underwhelming start to the 2025 season, coming back from that hamate bone injury, and now we come to find out a day after he hits an absolute bomb 450 feet, he gets sent down to AAA Syracuse as Hayden Sanger will be the immediate call up there for the backup catcher for Torrens. And I want to see your initial reactions in the comments down below this one, everybody, because we're going to get into the reporting where it initially stems from. And ultimately, now, what is next for the Mets now? Why did they make this decision with Francisco Alvarez to be sent down? How on overdue was this in actuality? And why are you guys watching 2023 Francisco Alvarez highlights beside me? I'm going to expand on that just here in a second, everybody. There is a reason for it. I have a point that I'm trying to make. So hit that like and subscribe on as you guys first chime in. Let me know all your initial reactions in the comments down below as we're going to deep dive all the pros, the cons, and everything in between Alvarez and his game. When we could see him back up with this Mets team, if at all, obviously, throughout the course of the 162 this year, what to expect with Hayden Sanger, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, and get yourself comfortable for our latest breaking news segment here on the WardyNYM platform, folks. But before we do, let's hear just a quick word from our amazing sponsor. Hey Mets fans, if you love diving deep into the numbers like WAR or ERA, then you absolutely are going to love what today's video sponsor Moo brings to your investing game. Think Moneyball, but this time for your portfolio. I'm beyond excited to share that Moo, the proud trading platform of the New York Mets, is here to level up your investing. Moo is a global trading platform currently serving over 25 million users in markets like the United States, Canada, Singapore, and Japan. Whether you're just starting out or if you're a more seasoned trader, Moo's app and desktop platform offers commission-free trading on stocks, ETFs, and options, no contract fees either. So plus, you get premium tools, guys, whether it's going to be the institutional grade analytics, Morningstar research, and analyst ratings, all free for funded users. And right now, Moo is doubling down for Mets fans. Sign up through my exclusive link down below, make a qualifying deposit, and get up to, yes, 60 free stocks, plus not one but two Mets Suite tickets. Not to mention, Moo customers can get free tickets to all Monday home games at Citi Field, and who knows, you may even see me at a game. And with zero commissions and zero contract fees on stock and ETF options, you keep more of your wins. Are you guys ready to trade smarter? Download Moo now and swing for the financial fences. And shout out once more to Moo for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. All right, folks, let's get right into this, and let's start with the initial reactions. Let's get the temperature check from each and every one of you guys watching this one right here, right now, because for me personally, I got to tell you, and you guys, if you've been following the platform as we cover the Mets every single day throughout the course of the 162 here and all off-season long here on WardyNYM, so make sure to hit those buttons if you haven't already on your way in. I have to be honest, I did not think an Alvarez send-down was going to be happening at the time of when the talks first started. I made that very clear. I will be very surprised if Francisco Alvarez is sent down, but one thing that's held true, everybody, including when Juan Soto got moved out of the two-hole, that I said I will not believe it until I see it, is the same as this. I now believe it because I see it. Francisco Alvarez being officially sent down by the Mets, mind you, a day removed from hitting a 452-foot bomb there for his third home run of the year. And if you guys are wondering why did the Mets send down Francisco Alvarez, there are so many reasons why the Mets sent down Francisco Alvarez. So unless you've been living under a rock, let me at least enlighten you a little bit here as to what's been going on, right? Because Alvarez is a man that we know who broke out on the scene as a very heralded prospect there. Huge IFA signing bonus when the Mets initially signed him as a 17-year-old there out of Venezuela. He made his Mets debut right around 3 years ago or so now, obviously, in 2023. He really bursted on the scene with true power implementation. 25 home runs that season there that we saw for Alvarez, 63 RBIs, a 209 average, a 284 on base, and a 437 slug for right around league average as a batter. And as you guys can see here, I'm showing you guys the 2023 highlights because this is the last time that we saw Francisco Alvarez play with confidence, the moxie, the guy that actually felt like he knew he was doing what he's supposed to be doing. But what changed from the moment of Francisco Alvarez not only dominating at the plate with the power in the lost 2023 season, but also being an elite framer in doing so? He was everyone's favorite catcher in that Mets pitching staff there at the time, including including the veterans to a degree in guys like Max Scherzer. So when you have a youngster in Alvarez being that gassed up by the future Hall of Famers there across Major League Baseball, I'm going to go on a limb and say that he's doing something right. So Alvarez not only had the defense working greatly where everyone wanted to be caught by him in his age 21 season or so, but you had offense that, well, yes, there was a lot of swing and miss, and the bat really fell off towards the end of that season when everyone else gave up because they were not going anywhere in 2023 after trading off the deadline. Alvarez still slugged himself 25 home runs. And what has changed since that point, everybody? Why has Francisco Alvarez had a boatload of struggles? It's multiple factors, and starting from the top, it's the injuries. We cannot forget, Francisco Alvarez has sustained significant hand injuries each of the past 2 seasons. If Alvarez started the season normally, I firmly do believe that Alvarez is not putting up the same production that he's right now. Lack thereof, because I think he's more comfortable. I think he's feeling good, especially after having what he felt was a rock-solid spring training. I loved how his swing looked in spring especially, and that was after spending this past offseason, mind you, there with the not the Atlanta Braves, but in Atlanta, rather, they're working at a facility that his former teammate JD Martinez highly recommended. If JDM recommends a hitting spot for you, you might as well go because he knows a thing or two about hitting bombs, right? JD Martinez did that his entire career and did a little bit of it right towards the end, which was his probably final season as a major league ball player there, last one there with the New York Mets. But since then, everybody, after that initial 2023 season with the 25 bombs, what do we come to find out, everybody? Yes, he is in fact not playing the game he's supposed to be playing. At least that's what Eric Chavez made Francisco Alvarez think. If you guys have not seen the reports, yes, coming out over the past year or so plus, we did make note that after that 2023 season, Eric Chavez pretty much let it be known to Alvarez that this is not sustainable. This will not lead you to success, and that you need to make adjustments. You need to be able to hit for all fields. You need to focus less on just hitting for power and focus more on putting the bat into play, the ball into play rather consistently. And what we've seen, especially entering the 2025 season after Alvarez had ups and downs, an 11 home run, 47 RBI year in 100 games last season with 237 average, 307 on base and a 403 slug. Good for right around league average again as a batter. Moving more lateral for Alvarez last year after sustaining that injury in LA there against the Dodgers on his thumb, rounding first base, trying to break his own fall. But fast forward, everybody, Alvarez, after having some ups and downs in the 2024 season for the Mets and defensively being strong but not as good as what he was in 2023, you can rightfully argue. Now 2025 enters, everybody, and not only is Alvarez looking more and more not like himself with the power swing, he's constantly hitting for opposite field, which I don't hate at all, but I hate it when you're not pulling at all for power. Again, Alvarez pulls for power yesterday, and how's he greeted? He gets sent down to AAA Syracuse. So on one hand, you could say to yourself, between Mark Vientos getting sent down a year plus ago there after hitting a bomb there that we saw, after Beatty getting sent down earlier this year after hitting a bomb against Wheeler in Philadelphia and that victory for the Mets, or now Alvarez hitting a bomb against the Phillies there that we saw there off of, wasn't it Taijuan Walker, if I'm not mistaken, because Ty's been batting practice for the Mets team, thankfully, the past couple days. Shout out to him, former New York Metropolitan legend there, Ty Tacos. The point here, though, everybody, is that Alvarez has completely lost his identity as a hitter, and that's where you have to really wonder how much is Eric Chavez and the Mets' own hitting staff at fault for that, whereas the other people that he has sought externally, because we know that Alvarez has sought people externally each of the past couple seasons to work on his mechanics with his swing, and now we're seeing a guy that just looks more and more of a shell of what he's supposed to be. A true power threat from the backstop position there. A guy that's not going to hit necessarily beyond 250, but you don't need him to because it's fine if he's hitting 20 to 30 bombs this season. But for whatever reason, Eric Chavez had to instill in a young 21-year-old after a fantastic rookie season with 25 home runs and pretty much saying how, this should be a lot better than what it currently is. You can be so much better. And I agree that Alvarez can be so much better. But instead of trying to uplift, we have instead stunted his growth, and now he has been sent down in the process because not only has the bat been a liability for Alvarez here in the big 2025, what has also been most notably a liability is not what you're just getting with the bat, but guys, is also what you're getting defensively with Francisco Alvarez. Because as you guys can see here, these are Alvarez's baseball savant numbers right now, everybody, and they leave quite a bit to be desired. Mind you, Alvarez is currently slashing 236, 319 with a 333 slug. That is good for 652 OPS, and that is just around 60 points lower than this past season and 70 points lower than the year prior in his true rookie year. He's in the 91st percentile there and above average there in CS above average as well as pop time, but the framing has been god-awful this year for Alvarez, so I don't care that he has, his one knee down and give him, a quicker pop time, whatever it is. It means nothing if you're not throwing out guys at a great rate or obviously blocking balls. He's in the 34th percentile in blocks above average, which is not ideal. He's obviously slow. We know that. The framing isn't there. And the hitting, again, massive exit velo when he actually can hit a baseball well. Hard hit percentage, again, well above league average. And the bat speed has been well above league average. But he's been so piss poor in these other, especially in the swing and miss so far this season. Chase rate hasn't been terrible, but the K percentage has been high. And obviously the expected slugging, expected batting average, and expected WOBA here leave a lot to be desired. Whereas you look last season, obviously was fluctuating quite a bit. But we did see the framing was at least in the 88th percentile. So even if Alvarez didn't have the bat as much, you knew defensively he was looking better. The blocks weren't good. That was becoming a problem last season. But the framing was still elite in the 80th percentile last season. 2023, rookie season, 87th percentile in field and run value. Mind you, offensively, he's all over the place, but expected slugging is right around the middle of the pack. Average exit velocity is actually a little down versus what it's been the past couple years. He's been up 3 miles per hour since then. 84th percentile there in barrel percentage, which is fantastic. 72nd in hard hit percentage, 81st in bat speed, and 68th in chase percentage. That's big because he's not chasing. In his first year, he didn't chase nearly as much as what you would otherwise think for a guy that was a 25 home run hitter. And then you look at this, everybody. Blocks above average. He was league average in blocking baseballs. That's really important because he's fallen off a cliff since then. He also, as we see, everybody, was in the 95th percentile as a frame. Guys, he's a 21-year-old catching rookie. As a guy who's catching the first half, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, and a bunch of others, right? He's in the 95th percentile. 95th percentile in his rookie season. And he has dropped now from 95 all the way to 8. How does that happen? It happens when you lack confidence. It happens when you're getting too many people and you're trying to give you all their respective opinions, but it's just too much at one point in time when you just need to have a balance. And I think Alvarez, after having such a high in 2023, had such a come down, not just from the hand injuries each of the past couple seasons, but also this is a player that had such a high that it was easy for him to come down. And it appears that he hasn't necessarily had the best guidance the entire time and getting where he needs to be. I can't see how Eric Chavez's comments helped him because he has only regressed since then. And that's something where I'm really curious, how much do the Mets look at that? How much do the Mets know on the front of Alvarez that they're going to get the best out of him? Why did they send Alvarez after hitting a bomb? Maybe they did it because, again, they have confidence that they think that by sending him down after hitting a home run, that's going to reassure that, basically saying, we know you're supposed to be here. Just give us more reasons to call you back up. We know you need to work on your game. We know you need to work on your framing and his defense. But the game calling, the framing, the defense has all been so bad, from the botch throwing at Atlanta there, throwing his second to the wild pitch there that he could have probably handled better last night in Philadelphia. And just all these little things now adding up for Alvarez, and he's becoming such more of a net negative in all these categories, whereas he was a positive in multiple, that you went from being a plus slugging bat and a plus defender to now net negative in both categories. I'm not shocked that the Mets are now sending him down. I was just shocked to actually see the news happen, especially after the home run, because I was not initially expecting that to transpire, everybody. But now the big question is, how long is Francisco Alvarez going to be sent down? And one, what are we going to get out of him when he comes back up, right? Because one, obviously Alvarez will be back up with this Mets team this season. The only way that doesn't happen is if he falls off a cliff somehow, some way, and Hayden Sanger plays well enough to warrant staying, or if the Mets go for someone else externally by the deadline. The trade deadline's a fascinating one because of the early treatment of Francisco Alvarez here. You do have to wonder if the Mets do at all consider someone at least that could sustain things well at the catching spot if Alvarez has not proven his worth enough by the time he reached the deadline. And folks, we just sent Alvarez down when the trade deadline is a month and a week away. Literally at the time of recording, this is a month and a week away. So what is Alvarez going to do? Well, he needs to build his confidence back up, and he needs to work on that defensive game. I have to wonder that if by rushing through his hamate bone injury, getting back to this team, if he was just more prioritized and just locking in more than anything else, where the defense has been sliding the past couple years, maybe he'll actually get a chance to remedy this now in Syracuse, where there's less pressure by having to have such a results-oriented business at the major league level with the Mets. Maybe now that he's in Syracuse, this will bode him well to kind of calm down a little bit, focus more on his defensive game, and start to pull baseballs more. Get back to playing the game that made him fun, and is exactly why the Mets signed him as a 17-year-old straight out of Venezuela. Why are we deviating so far from his initial game that built him to have all of us Mets fans, including myself, ecstatic from that 2021 campaign? So, because I'm sorry, in my humble opinion, I think you're an absolute schmuck if you look at the 2021 season for Francisco Alvarez and think that that is not impressive nor productive for a 21-year-old catcher. It's an anomaly, one, to be 21 years of age and a catcher in Major League Baseball. Secondly, to do it at a league average rate while hitting 25 home runs and being an elite framer is such an anomaly, which is exactly why we were all saying how Alvarez may very well become one of the best catchers in all Major League Baseball. But he has regressed since then, not only because of the injuries, the lack of confidence, and I really do think how the Mets have approached him in his hitting ways has only hurt his development more than anything else. And that, again, is another situation where you look at Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes and say to yourself, how much are they at fault? How much are the Mets trying to save face by, of course, not trying to make any drastic cuts there? And secondly, how much is Alvarez at fault for a guy that, has sought external help various ways over the past couple years there from outsourced people outside of the Mets themselves getting the best out of his hitting as defensive game. It's an interesting thing to ponder, everybody, but the exact reason as to why I've been playing these highlights is to show you what we had. This is 2023 Alvarez. This is elite Alvarez. This is a guy that's going to throw out everyone and their mother trying to steal second base. This is a man who's going to frame better than most. This is a man who's going to hit your 20 to 25 bombs in his sleep without a problem and pimp them like a dog. And doing so, we are so far removed from this type of catcher in Francisco Alvarez that you really have to wonder how long it's going to take to get him back, because you just have to hope that the confidence gets instilled. He uses this as, again, a great motivator for him, and then he builds himself up and maybe gets back in the mentality as he was as a minor leaguer, where he's just grinding his ass off to get to not only the major league level, but to actually flourish once he gets here. Because right now, he's just been a guy that's been here for the most part, especially this season coming back from the hamate bone injury. Then you add in Hayden Sanger. What is there to know about Hayden Sanger, everybody? In case you guys don't know Hayden Sanger, he was doing great in spring training for the Mets on the catching end and began the year with the Mets the first month or so with Alvarez down with injury, and he was tremendous defensively. Sanger was one of the best defensive catchers in Major League Baseball for the month-plus stint that he was here out of all eligible catchers statistically. He also had some clutch hits with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. So who knows? Even if Hayden Sanger doesn't bat more than $180, we're right around a sub 600 OPS, doing his north of Luis Angel Acuna impression right now. That's perfectly fine as long as A, he's calling games greatly, B, he's framing and he is a plus, not a liability. C, he is throwing out some runners from time to time, even though I can't expect him to be a stud every single time out there. And more importantly, he's helping this pitching staff get fortified, because now seeing the pitching staff have all the woes that they have from their injuries to their inconsistencies, they need to lean a little bit more on a defensively minded catcher to help get themselves right. They can't be reliant on the pitching lab to be the end all be all every single time out there. So for all those reasons, I think that's another factor as why this move happened and Sanger got called up. The Mets want to get their pitching staff fortified a bit, and Sanger knows best when it comes to calling great defensive games as well as doing great with the blocking ability. So all these factors went in hand with why the Mets made the decision that they did. So Hayden Sanger, you can expect probably not a lot on the offensive end, not far off from Alvarez right now with the exception of his bomb last night, but what you are getting is a far superior defender and framer than what Alvarez is currently giving you. And for Alvarez, hopefully he's not in AAA too long, and can just be a nice wake-up call to get himself right. Again, he's only like 23 years of age or so, guys. Adley Rutschman didn't make his MLB debut until still a year plus now or so, right around from the time of Alvarez in this current season. So just for some context on how, again, Rome wasn't built overnight. It's going to take Alvarez a little bit to get where we want him to be, but I think we need a preface from writing him off so soon as a 23-year-old catcher or so when he has still so much upside and so much potential. Are the Mets going to be able to max out that potential, or will he be best in a change of scenery? That's a bridge that we'll cross when we have to get there. For now, it's just him in the minor leagues, and we will see what he does there for Syracuse while we see what Hayden Sanger now does at the major league level. But Mets fans, let me know all your thoughts, all your key takeaways and comments down below here from this breaking news segment. Francisco Alvarez, El Troll, is officially in Syracuse. Hayden Sanger gets the call, and we'll be live again later on tonight. Win, lose, or draw here. Series finale rubber match between the Mets and the Phillies. I apologize to everyone that has to have their ears bleed by listening to it or watching a certain broadcast. Prepare to have Juan Soto be questioned, as he is going to be the Q&A player there in tonight's segment in that game. And I'm sure they're going to ask him questions, everything regarding other players and other things outside of himself, Juan Soto, because this network has a tendency to do everything but actually cover the game they're supposed to cover. But I digress. That's enough of the wordy tangent. Thank you guys all again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.